Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana, a special show today based on celebrating the Blue Moon successful launch and landing, as well as the new Shepard space capsule carrying four people, the youngest and the oldest. An interesting thought I had is basically, someone 18 years old going up in space and someone who's 82 going up in space, one of the early astronauts and in the Women Astronaut Corps for the U.S. What's interesting though is I'm glad to see that this happened. Also, I hope that this encourages more women to go into the astronaut corps because other countries have successfully had women astronauts or cosmonauts, as the term is used in the Russian space program. The other thing about this is even with the 18-year-old, because when you consider the person who's 18, for many years to go into space, the traditional requirement was someone had to be an Air Force pilot of their respective country, have so many hours of flight time, and so many hours of military service to be prepared for different types of eventualities. And I was amazed that when I was watching CBS that they said it only took 3 days of training. Wow, quite a bit, like that. And even with Branson, 1 week of training, again, a while too, because basically, when you consider other programs like the ISS and even with the Russian space program, they have trained various people, but it still takes extra time, more than 3 days and more than 1 week. This opens up a whole new thing. To Jeff Bezos and Branson, next time you're going up in flight, I don't have the $250,000 as yet, but I've developed a lot of software. Might be able to do a software exchange or something for a seat on the plane, or especially the Bezos when you're having the New Glenn. I love to go up on a few orbits around the Earth. I know I have to get my weight down, but basically, I think the main requirement for me is getting up those 7 flights of steps. So that's a goal that I can do. And also the Branson, same thing. I can do that as well. Be very happy if you consider me. But this is, I got up at 5 o'clock this morning because I heard it was going to be launched early. So I turned on CBSN. As that's one of the cable stations I have to watch it, and then I saw the thing about launch at 8:15 Eastern, 7:15 Central, and so basically what I did was I don't know if I can show it here. It's saying let me try to switch the computer around here so you can see it. Let's see. There you go. Well, I sort of had an early breakfast. In anticipation of the space flight. And it does remind me of the time when I was younger, basically watching CBS News with Walter Cronkite and being at my grandparents in Fort Lauderdale and having breakfast with the astronauts or being with my parents in Wauwatosa and having breakfast with the astronauts and that. So it's nice to see this again. And I was just amazed how flawless everything went. It just went right up, coasted a little bit, came down, and then the chutes came out. And this time it landed on a solid surface, which with the retrolock is coming in at less than 1 mile per hour, and everyone got out there. Basically, it's just like they just took a taxi ride, basically. Just no stiffness, no anything else like that, no bulky suits or anything, just jumpsuits, and wow, what a thing to see. Well, I'm hoping basically with Bezos and Branson that basically that it's opened up to other people, also even some slots like they did for charity or some volunteer slots like that. Because basically, I think it's good to have a wide group of people, scientists, computer scientists like myself, or computer engineers like myself. But basically, also medical researchers, which I worked in the field as well, because I think some of the things you can do now that we have basically these multi-minute 10-minute duration flights and other flights like other duration flights. Um, one thing I became interested in the early 90s was one university I visited when I was a medical researcher talked about what they called microgravity experiments. And the way they did the microgravity experiments is you had a tower like this, and what you do, you put the sample in, and then when you drop the tower down to the ground, you had so many seconds of weightlessness. Now imagine what would happen if you could take like the Blue Moon capsule or basically Virgin Galactic capsule and put in and have two people work with different types of automated or chemical equipment that could actually see and take data of how an experiment would work in microgravity. Like for example, a chelation experiment, how would it work in microgravity? Or basically an enzyme experiment, how would it work? Or even something related to blood, basically, how would the clotting mechanism work, in microgravity? This is something that could be used in the future. The thing though is what's nice about this now is as was mentioned in one part in the interview on CBSN, is that now basically rather than having to have basically people that have Air Force experience or flight experience, you can actually have various types of special people in different specialties who would be able to do better, who could do the experiments better, and basically and also observe different things. And this is a great opening because, like I said, I'd be interested in actually volunteering for the New Glenn flight or even for the next Virgin Galactic flight in the next phase. I realize I'm going to have to work a little bit on my weight, which now this gave me new impetus to do. And the thing is, what happens? So I think we can really see a new opening in research and development and other things. One thing though regarding some of the TV commentary though is whenever some people talk about space, they always talk about well, this money can be used for something else on Earth. This money, it reminds me when I was in junior high school because I saw the Apollo landing when I was 7 years old. We had a Sylvania color TV, and we watched it from Wauwatosa, and my dad was just amazed, basically, how clear the picture was and how clear the sound was. And my dad worked in the space program as a contractor for many years, from 1954 to 1975, and I'm sure he'd be happy to see this as well. But my point is though is in junior high school when I did a term paper on the space program, yes, I had to dig for research on what the comet was of the day, the day after the moon landing. And I saw a lot of articles in the then New York Times about people saying, well, this could be money could have been diverted here, this could have been diverted here, this blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, it's not that. This is not a zero-sum game where basically you think of this as a pie. This is not a zero-sum game. It's like basically like the Japanese think, and even like there's one business development special by name Kaneki. His name sounds exactly the same as mine, but I read his book in the 80s, and he talked about the idea that rather than think about one piece of pie, you got to think of clusters. This is one cluster. This is another cluster. And eventually, what happens? These clusters, you get enough of them, they intersect like this. So instead of thinking about a pie like this, thinking of it as a pie, you think of it as a module, or as an organism, or as different things. And this is what space research does do. And today, with the Blue Moon and Virgin Galactic, we're well on our way again. And I'm glad to see that this was able to be done by the private sector. I am a big supporter of NASA, but that is true that there's some things that NASA is good at, and there's some things the private sector is good at. And also, in some ways, I'm also glad to see that it's done in Texas, because for many years when I started in computer science, I used Texas Instruments TI 50, 58, 59, SR 56, had a TI 994 home computer. Actually, this podcast is done from a Dell computer, which is made in Austin. So, a lot of good things, and also people I've met that have worked for TI always had great things to say about working at TI too. And that's because basically you have to have this environment where they said basically you get outside this this tight regulation where you can't move like this, because everyone wants to micromanage you. Well, you should do it this way. You should paint it blue. You should paint it. You should use metric screws. It's like, no, you need to get in a wide open spaces where basically you use a reference from one music group, the Czechs, wide open spaces where you have this wiggle room. You have more than wiggle room. You have flexibility, to do this stuff, basically that's where I think Texas is a great environment to do that, because, or even Arizona. But I think Texas offers a little more flexibility, because sometimes people do wonder about how much can you really do in California if you're a research and developer without running into all these other strange strict rules or anything else. I mean, because one time when I was in California, the person meant it as a joke, but to us from the Midwest and other things, we didn't see it as a joke at that time. It took a while for us to register, because he said, "Welcome to California, where even the bugs have lights." And he meant that as a joke. And it took a while for us to register, because to some of us is like, some of you who've seen Sex in the City, the LA episodes, they said, well, you can't smoke here, or you can't do this here, you can't. And finally Carrie says, we're going. It's like, and that's why I think sometimes it's better to do in areas where there's a little bit openness, and not so much regulation right away like that. So, and that's why I think with Texas, it was a good choice for both in that, though. The other thing what I like, though, is that basically when I saw the control room for the Blue Moon, I was thinking basically back, when I watched the Apollo launchings on CBS, they showed the control room with these IBM 360, 370 terminals and all these. And now when you look at the control room now, basically it's like just a fraction of the people needed. And basically it was, and that's amazing that we are able to get the technology so we can do that. Just a fraction of the people needed and computer technology needed. The other thing what I liked about the Blue Moon, which shows that basically the people who worked on this project really studied the engineering history of space travel, was that they mentioned basically the emergency launch engine, which was not originally put on the Saturn V, because on the Saturn, when the Saturn V was first made, you had the command module like this, and the rest of Saturn V bulb. But if anything happened, that's not just stuck, and later on they added what was called an escape rocket, a little tower like this on top. They go like this and shoot up, and then allow the capsule to go. A Blue Moon, I'm glad to see that they remembered that, because just in case if something did happen, they could actually detach and get away from any danger safely. So it showed that basically both Basil's team with Blue Moon and Branson's team with Virgin Galactic are thinking and did study engineering history. What I do hope is that basically is that what's being done can be made open to subcontractors, because I'd be happy to bid on some aspect of software or control engineering, or even a medical research project. I and a friend would be happy to do that. And the thing is, what happens is with some of these projects, many of us are creative, but we don't have the what would I call it, the fraternity support. Because the problem is, for many of us, let's say we go to grants.gov and put a bid in for a project at NASA, something else. Well, since it's two of us, and I haven't published a paper since 2004 with SCS, Society for Computer Simulation. Well, when I submit a bid, even if it was approved by by government agency, someone who has a higher ranking on a fraternity scale could try to put in a delay or an objection. And what happens, since it's peer review, I would be very low on the peer review scale, because I'm not as active, and also I may not have the sort of the party reputation that some researchers have, like you see on TV, where some of them talk on TV or different news agencies about COVID or other things, because I'm sort of now relatively unknown, or basically future known, past known, like that though. And this is where I think, for the projects to open up, it has to be a different system other than peer review, because peer review only allows the popular researchers or the researchers to have a lot of clout to get grants. To really move this thing forward, I think, for the next phase, you have to allow researchers that don't have the university clout, or those of us who are basically retired or semi-retired, to be able to participate too. And what happens to a peer research process, we'd be thrown out in the wind. So I'm saying, to open this up, make a special process for basically older researchers, who are semi-retired or retired, or someone that hasn't published a paper in a while, to give them a chance. Because the most important thing about what I think about what happened today is, what I heard as paraphrase of, when they asked, when Jeff Bezos came and talked to one person at NASA, it was like, well, would you like to sign a contract to do, a space deliveries to the International Space Station? And he said, basically the answer was, well, I want to help you, but I don't want to be under this very strict thing where I have to rush things. I want this, so wide space, so I can do it on my own, that my team can do things properly, and will not feel like we're being rushed, or we not. And I can understand that, because basically, creative people do not like to have someone call them on the phone and say, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" It's like, I had that happen on a software project, and it was very, very, very aggravating, because I was working and typing on the computer, and working with Delphi to develop some code. And this person from kept calling, and I said, you just called 5 minutes ago. Well, did you do anything? No, because I had to stop the computer, reset it to talk to you. Now it's starting to go up, get going, so I can work again. So I finally had to put the phone on pause. Or another thing is, I can understand why Bezos wants more, doesn't want the constraints of a traditional government project, is because one time, just to give an example, in those days I used an HP pack. This had the big satellite antenna and other things. You never had a poor signal from a tower. And I was talking, and what happened, I made a mistake of adding another person to call, so it's the three of us. And then the two people who were talking, who on the call, started getting an argument with each other. They're arguing, and I said, guys, come on now, let's get back, focus, focus, focus. And well, what happened? They didn't listen. At one point, the arguing got so bad, I actually dropped my phone. I fell. From exhaustion because trying to act as a referee and to stop this and trying to work on it. And finally, one person saw me on the floor lying by my desk, and that's because of a heart condition. And what they did is they took the phone and they said, "Well, Dee, are you there?" And they finally said, "Dee," and she said, "No." And the person took the phone and said, "No, Dee is not there. Dee is taking a break. Do not call her for until tomorrow. She collapsed, and you guys didn't even notice it. Goodbye." And that's the reason why I think I give Bezos credit that he can do this on his own power through his own private company. And in a way, it's better to do some of this through a private company because with a private company, you have more leverage and more options available to do creative things than you do basically as a public company. Because as a public company, you have to give guidance, you have to make profit, you have to do this. As a private company, you can do it at your pace and do it well. Because like another question came up in the interview was, well, will the space tourism thing be profitable with Bezos, Virgin Atlantic, and possibly someone else? Yes, it will, but it's not going to be profitable right away. Just remember, for many people who follow basically companies that were formed basically during the .com era, like Amazon and others. It took many years for Amazon to make their first profit, and it took many years for Amazon to go into prominence. Same with other .com companies that were able to survive the .com bust in 2000. And see, that's the point. I mean, basically, it's, do you want something? Are you interested in coming out fizzles like this, and then you have something that once the wave goes, it drops down? Well, I mean that's a franchise. But if you're doing creative work, you got to have that time to go. Sometimes you're going to dip a little bit, but then you'll come back up, and then eventually hit critical mass and go like that. And that's where a private company does help. So with the Blue Moon and the and Virgin Electric, wonderful. And this morning I was glad to be able to get up and see it and watch it live. I'm going to meet with friends later today, and we're going to talk more about this. But to Bezos, good job. And also to Branson, good job. Because basically, both of you are waking the creativity that exists and getting over the what I would call basically some of the negative lobbying aspects that come when people talk about space. So I'm glad to see we're finally past that. And I'm hoping basically that there's more done in the future with the New Glenn thing, with the New Glenn module, and also with the lunar lander that Bezos is working on, that too. I mean, possibly maybe when that's ready, I might be 70, but I'm still interested. I'm still interested if you're willing to have me as a passenger. We can try to work something out or something, but very, very happy to see this today. And this is the best thing that I've seen in a long time. And it's great to see that innovation is still important, and innovation in a private sector, private company can still work. And I'm glad that people like Bezos and Branson have the courage to sponsor this type of research development, even though some people may say, well, they want this money spent someplace else. I'm glad they have the courage to say it's important to do it, and let's do it. Well, let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter with the page Ideas with Diana, IDEASWITHDIANA, or my other Twitter page is Diana1A, which is DIANA1A, and you can put comments on both of them. And comments from the show and links from the show will be on these pages shortly, as well as on Facebook. Well, let me know what you think. And this has been a special idea of Ideas with Diana.